Coming up on Hoge and Jahns, we are live at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and our buddy Nate Tice is going to join us. We got a lot to talk about from yesterday. Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson meeting the media, and we always like talking to Nate. So it's all coming up right now on Hoge and Jahns. What's up? Welcome in Hoge and Jahns with you on a live edition, at least on YouTube, presented by Old National Bank and live at the NFL Combine. Every play matters, whether it's on the field or in your financial life. The best teams win by delivering excellence at every level. Old National Bank, where relationships and results matter. Member FDIC. Johnsy, another Hoge and Jahns episode from Indy.
We're not in the hotel rooms, though.
Yeah, we've come a long way. We have an actual
Radio
setup.
row.
We have a backdrop.
Our Carmen's roaming around with a coffee and sheets of paper in his hand. Somebody help him.
Yeah, someone needs to tell him.
Defensive linemen and linebackers, I believe, are talking on the other side of that curtain right now.
Yeah.
Or soon.
Yeah. Braggs was probably lined up at 6 a.m. ready to go for
first one there
for somebody. And we'll probably touch on prospects a little bit more with Nate a little bit later on, and then probably even more so on our second episode later in the week. But welcome in, because we got a lot to talk about with the Bears. Nate will join us in about 15 minutes.
Just a lot to get through.
Yeah.
Comp picks, Tyson Bagent's future, DJ Moore's future, Tremaine Edmunds' future. Where do you want to begin?
Let's start with DJ Moore.
Okay.
I know you asked the questions yesterday to Ryan Poles. There was a lot of talk about DJ Moore, and I think the common theme yesterday with Poles was the door's kind of open on everything. Like they're not really committing, but you got to kind of sort through how he answered what about which player, because like when Cole Kmet's name comes up, it wasn't so open.
It was, we feel good about him being on the team.
Yeah, so you could still kind of read between the lines on some of this stuff, which is why we're here. But yeah, let's start with what Ryan Poles had to say about DJ Moore yesterday, because this was a perfect example of kind of floating some stuff out there and doing so in a way where I do believe them that they like DJ Moore, but might still be open for business. So here's what Poles had to say.
Yeah, I got to have conversations and kind of see what, like I said, the best combination of players we can bring in. We want him here. We think highly of him. He's a great teammate. He's been productive pretty consistently over the last couple of years that he's been here. So I have nothing but great things to say about him. But this is the time now where we have to look at all the different scenarios and see what can allow us to put the best team out there. And I've talked about this before. It's just, there's relationships there. There's a lot there that make it really, really difficult. But he's a guy we want here, but we have to look at all different scenarios.
Okay, so DJ Moore is the only player on the roster signed through the 2029 season. I don't think a restructure is a possibility here. I don't think the Bears really want to trade DJ Moore, but they have to consider it because it is in the best interest of the long-term health of this team.
Yeah, but it's a tough situation because
the Bears are better with DJ Moore. They're a better team. Ben Johnson, later, going through how he knows every single receiver position, he was durable. That matters in the long term of a 17-game season. All that's important context.
It is, and trading him means somebody else is taking that contract. And so what are you going to get in return? And you're still eating dead money on the signing bonus. So I don't think trading him is the easiest thing.
With that contract, I would also argue probably limits the amount of trade partners that come your way.
Right, exactly. So I mean, I get the conversation. I get why this keeps coming up, but I don't think it's easy to trade him, and I don't think it's you're certainly not just going to cut him.
No.
So
Well, you can't. The contract prevents that.
And I right. And the other side of this then is if the contract's already a problem, then I mean, obviously he's not. I get what they're trying to say. They love DJ Moore, but there's the production isn't where they want it then, as much as they're saying that.
See, I don't think they have a problem with the actual production. I think their problem is trying to project where everybody fits, not only in 2026, but 2027.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear them with the messaging about having sustainability, how Ben Johnson wants sustained success, how Caleb Williams wants to be known as one of the all-time greats, which means sustained success. Like, how do they sustain that success? Tough decisions come with it. And this is one of the one right now, like on top of the Bears list. I think Tremaine Edmunds is a tougher decision than even we have debated before. And I want to get to that in a little bit, but I don't think the Bears want to make this move, but it's almost one they have to make to set themselves up for more flexibility come 2027, come 2028, knowing that DJ Moore's contract probably prohibits them from doing a few different things.
Yeah, well, in Edmunds is another one. This is a weird situation because I think this is a more fluid offseason with players that are on the team currently than, and I think that comes with, just being farther along in what they've built here and having some success in last season. But I don't really remember it being this fluid with so many, a handful of players. You know what I mean? Like there's, and I felt like yesterday they were trying to float out the idea too of like, hey, they're open. Is anybody interested in Tremaine Edmunds? But that's another one that like I don't think that contract is gonna get a bunch of people lining up to trade for him, when it's more likely in those situations those type of veterans just get released and then you can sign them to they're free to go.
Yeah. Do you are you surprised that Edmunds is still on the roster right now?
A little bit, but only because of the track record, which Poles was asked about yesterday too, about his history of making some of those roster moves before the combine even happens. And that's not what they did in Edmunds' case. They did release a linebacker last week, but it was not Edmunds. And that is an indication that I at least think there's a door open to him still being on the team.
Good. That's right. I think this is more nuanced than we've debated or has been talked publicly. I think Ryan Poles revealed a little bit. It was Greg Braggs, our colleague, who asked the question about the injuries at linebacker. And I thought Poles had a very open answer. He described it as difficult. What did he say? We spent a lot of time working through that process. There are some unknowns there. There's some projections just in terms of return time. So that's TJ Edwards, Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell may not be ready at all this season. Seriously. So that's something the Bears have to project. DeMarco Jackson, a free agent. Tremaine Edmunds is only 27 years old too.
Well, and by the way, DeMarco Jackson being a free agent might be one of the reasons why it's still fluid with Edmunds.
Yes. Because
they might be trying to re-sign DeMarco Jackson, and if they don't feel like they're going to, then maybe they
do you add a year or two to trade? Like, I wouldn't be opposed for such a thing, would you?
Add
2 years to Tremaine Edmunds' deal. By the end of it, he'll be 29 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely against it. I would have to imagine he's taking a sizable pay cut for whatever's being added on those next couple of years. You know what I mean? And if I'm him, you got to weigh, can I get more on the open market? Versus, and here's another aspect of this whole thing, too, how many of these guys want to be back because of what they built last season? Yeah. I mean, I think there's part of that, too. There's, money always talks in this league, especially when it comes to free agency. But I also, I get the sense that there's guys that, aren't in a hurry to get out of Chicago like some of the past years.
I would put Tremaine Edmunds in that category. Yeah. Team leader, wants to win, was on a winning team in Buffalo, went through some tough times here initially with the Bears, and now they're a playoff winner.
Right.
Making the divisional round.
So this conversation about short-term versus long-term, a lot of, because that's an example too. Like if you're going to extend Edmunds, I always go back to how Belichick used to always like to get rid of a guy a year too early rather than a year too late. And a lot of that impacts your future flexibility to make more moves, which is obviously something the Bears are worried about right now. So Ben Johnson talked about, that idea of short-term versus long-term decisions. Are we ready for that clip? Here's what Ben Johnson had to say on that topic.
Yeah, no, I think that's a balancing act, and that's where Ryan and Matt Feinstein, Jeff King, those guys, they do a great job keeping the big picture in mind of what we're trying to do, short-term and long-term, and balancing act. And so you might have an off-the-wall idea, and you kind of got to talk it through of what the consequences might be if you went down that road. And so that's this time of year. You're trying to, as I've been saying all day long, trying to accumulate the best 90-man roster you possibly can. We need to be as competitive as it's ever been so that we take the next step. And I know Ryan and I see our current roster, the guys that are under contract, very much in the same lens, and we're totally committed to whatever it takes to get better.
So when I heard that at the end, his last comments about seeing the roster in the same lens, I immediately thought about what Ryan Poles said about Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift, how they're going to be on this, or they feel good about them being on this roster. Although there's some debate whether or not, releasing them is cap savings you need. Again, the Bears are a better team with Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift on the roster. You could argue about the value of running backs, but at the same time, if you don't know his replacement yet, I don't think you can move on him yet.
Right, which is why I think a lot of this is still fluid, for sure. I think that's and that's part of the situation that you've gotten here. And I think one of the reasons why it makes this offseason so interesting for the Bears, because I'll just speak for myself. I don't know a lot. I know we come down here to try to find these things and get these hints, and we'll continue to do that during the week. But I don't really see a lot of just clear black and white decisions for the Bears. I think this is going to be extremely fluid based on exactly what Ben just talked about there, what you just talked about there. They're trying to just, and we were having this discussion yesterday in terms of, and I know we're going to have Nate join us here in a few minutes and talk a little bit more about Tyson Bagent since he's our quarterback guy on the show. But, how even if we're going to talk a potential Max Crosby trade, Carmen and I were arguing because I don't necessarily think each trade is its own thing. Yes, they're kind of made individually, but if you look at it more like the sum of the parts, maybe you can stomach giving up extra for Max Crosby if right now, talking to some people here in Indy, and I'm talking about Ryan Poles right now, who has these conversations and sets the groundwork for some of these trades. If you leave Indy with the sense that maybe Tyson Bagent can get you a second-round pick, well, that might open up the door more towards a Max Crosby trade because you're getting, and same thing with the Ian Cunningham conversation yesterday with the comp picks. You don't think they want to know if they're going to have a third-round pick or not? Because every piece of draft capital gives you more flexibility to make more moves, regardless of what those moves end up being.
So one thing leads to the next, is what you're saying, and I think DJ Moore fits in that conversation. So Moore, if we had to predict today, on or off the roster in 2026?
I would say on.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say on.
Tremaine Edmunds, on or off the roster in 2026?
I would still lean off.
Okay.
But that's based not on me personally thinking, oh no, they got to get rid of him, or the Bears not liking him or anything. I think it's the opposite of that. I just think the math, and that's how I worded it to Ryan Poles yesterday when I asked him about it. It's the salary cap math would suggest you might make this move.
Okay. Tyson Bagent, on or off the roster 2026?
I would still lean on.
Me too.
But yesterday,
I'm going back and forth on it. You threw me on the spot here yesterday. I felt off, but now I want to say on because I still think there's immense value in the Bears believe in that value. Not only having a good backup quarterback, but just his place on the roster overall.
But what I will say is it sounds like they're more open to trading him than I thought they would be. Because this conversation has come up. There was the rumor last week from Arizona, and we just because Bagent gets talked a lot about at CHGO Bears, it comes off, and he does appear to at some point be a trade asset that you have. But every time we talked about it, Johns, I was like, it seems like a move you make next year because he still has value. this 2-year contract extension is just kicking in now, and so by next year when there's just 1 year left on his deal, that would be like the right timing to me to move on from him. So that's why I was I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect that to even come up yesterday. Amongst the list of questions, I wasn't necessarily going to ask about trading Tyson Bagent. So when I'm sitting on the other side of, in this room or standing there, and all of a sudden that's a conversation and Poles gave the answer that he did, it kind of surprised me a little bit.
I guess like if you're Ryan Poles and by Saturday you're going home, Sunday you're driving home, and you realize there's a market for Tyson Bagent. Again, in terms of acting in the best interest of your team, like you have to have those conversations. Like you have, if you're getting a potential day 2 pick, even if it's like one of the first picks of the 3rd round, that is seriously something you have to entertain for the best interest of your franchise.
Yeah,
especially if he's not going to be your starting quarterback.
Well, I want to talk more to Nate. Nate's going to sit down with us, and I know he has some thoughts on Bagent because we talked about it off the air yesterday. So we'll bring in Nate and hear what his thoughts are in terms of what he thinks the value for Tyson Bagent should be at this point. So all of that is coming up. Don't go anywhere. Nate Tice is next. But first,
Adam, what if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? 5 years.
Sounds good.
It's amazing.
Let's do it.
That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them. Like our great producers here, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with the 6th Sense, and lets you stream the game even when the whole family's online. I got 4 kids. That's big.
Yeah, we know.
Okay. All right.
Well, I actually usually think it's more than that, but I lose count.
Please.
Do you guys ever lose count
of kids?
Yeah.
Might lose the kids. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment included. Take it from me. A lot can change in 5 years. Championship are won. Records are broken, dreams grow bigger, but your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable and the price should stay put. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply.
Well, in the Hoge household, it's been hockey season for a long time now, but the Blackhawks getting back to the ice, they were gone for like over a month with the Olympic break, and then when they return this week, they're on the road
saw some
for
good hockey, though.
So I know fans are itching to get back to the United Center and watch the Blackhawks, especially after what Team USA did in the Olympics. So if you are interested, get on the Game Time app, because the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use. I'll be honest with you, even when I don't buy tickets on Game Time, I actually still use the app because it's such a great app to see the whole stadium, what tickets are available, what the prices are. I check it all the time. And the fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. Check it out right now. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, keeping things going here on Hoge Jahns, presented by Old National Bank in Indianapolis at the NHL. I just called it the NHL Combine. I've never been to it. Did you ever go to an NHL Combine?
No.
You
I've
covered
gone to
hockey.
draft.
Okay.
Different life ago.
I was in the NBA combines in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been to that
either.
MLB combine. Okay. I don't know where that one is. I guess it's like in Arizona.
I think this is the best of all combines, though, because we run into
we
people.
Get to run into guys like this.
Yeah.
I know, every time. It's great. I mean, that's the thing. You guys come to the Super Bowl too. Like that's like nice because nice to see friendly faces there that week, because it's just, you guys get it, especially Wednesday and Thursday, and it's just like I feel like just a pinball in there. And then I see you guys. It's like, oh, friendly water. There's a friendly port. Oh, okay, I can just hang over here.
Over here for a little bit.
You and the Eagles guys, because there's some friends of mine too. And so it's like, from the Athletic, and back in the day. But no, great to see you guys.
Yeah. So we were just discussing Tyson Bagent and some of the trade talk that came up yesterday publicly. So I want your perspective, because it's an interesting thing, because I think there's just not a lot of tape on him out there, and he's been but he's been in the league for 3 years, and Ben Johnson obviously loves the dude. So it's kind of hard to figure out what his trade value would actually be.
And well, there's a lot of desperate teams, and I think that's where it starts. And then that's why there's a market for him, because they're looking for any warm body. But Tyson's way more than just a warm body. And he's a guy that's grown on me because I guess my exposure to him is like when he comes in, he had the camp stuff, and then he played for a little bit. That was with Fields, correct?
Yeah.
For some reason, the Saints game comes to mind. I don't even remember if he was in that game.
No, he was because
he was good.
That's the game that comes to mind to me for some reason.
Well, that's because he threw the interceptions.
Okay, but
late.
that's like my
Yeah.
first maybe exposure to him.
Yeah.
But that's the one. But I remember watching him preseason, and I actually was going to tweet about him this preseason. But I knew what was kind of going on with Caleb, but I was like, I'm not going to dip my toes into this. I'm going to let this play out.
You learn quickly.
Yeah, and I get it as an outsider. I'm like, okay, I've seen this time and time again. This a Loka kid or some backup, like in Minnesota, we had Todd Bauman, the backup that like everybody loves, and yada yada yada. I was a backup quarterback. I totally get it. But then I watched him this preseason, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, and he had really more than even just traits, because I'm always going to look at traits. He had really good pre-snap control of everything. Some like points, some changing some stuff, very calm. And then you could just see he's got good size, which is obvious and everything, but also can move a little bit, has good juice on the arm. So to me, I was going to like say something. And then I said this to you yesterday, and I was like, then they extended him. And it was a weird time for an extension. And I was like, okay, that's okay. I'm going to put a pin in that. And here we are 6 months later. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. It wasn't just that preseason tape there. He was showing something. So I understand why he has a market, but we did a quarterback landing spot show on Football 301 a few weeks ago. And I brought Tanner McKee, Spencer Rattler, and I think these guys, and even Anthony Richardson, of course, is another one. But like these guys that are backups, and you see how many teams need some answer, whether it's a bridge guy, whether to just get them through this year, whether a long-term option. And to me, the most interesting ones are McKee, Rattler, and Bagent, because it's not Kirk Cousins, it's not Rodgers. We know what we're getting there. But at least there's kind of a mystery here. But I also think all three of them have actually some solid play to them already. So to me, that's how what I say Colossus of Rhodes it, where you have 1 foot in the present, one maybe into the future, straddle it a little bit. That's what I think. That's why he has a market, because it could be cheap, could be, cost control for a little bit, get a little dart throw. All right, if it doesn't work out, whatever. Okay, cool. We gave up a mid-round pick or whatever we gave up, and then next year's draft we can maybe address it. So that's why he has a market.
So we've heard Ben Johnson, like early in the year, he's getting his extension, and he's describing Tyson Bagent of someone of a similar mindset. Like we see the game the same way. It praise his work ethic, everything behind the scenes. And then yesterday here, just right over there, he describes him as one of 32 quarterbacks, in his opinion, who should start in this league. He's calling him a starter. How would you view that if you're running the Raiders, running the Cardinals? Like, how far does Ben Johnson's endorsement of Tyson Bagent go?
It's great. I mean, and they're going to have private conversations too, and say all that. But the public stuff is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what happens, behind the scenes. So it's obvious there's something there. That's effusive praise. That's not just like, oh yeah, he's good, he's really worked hard. It's like he has the same brain as me. He's one of 32. So it's obviously, and even if it is some whatever you want,
he's like joking and coughing up there, like, no, I don't want to trade him, like stuff like that. That's something.
And it absolutely is, especially considering the personality too of Ben Johnson. Like for him to kind of be that over the top with it, that does say something. And when you look at the teams you brought, like the Raiders, so like they have a path to have a quarterback, Mendoza, boom. But teams like the Jets, Steelers, Cardinals, Cardinals were just like, I actually don't mind their offseason so far, but they're going to be so far behind everybody else. But like those teams, it's like, all right, you need some option. There's only one quarterback, and do you really want to go with, in this draft class too, this is what helps the trade market, is that Ty Simpson, to me, is more of a round 3 guy. Garrett Nussmeier is more of a round 3 guy. They both aren't very big. They have a lot of red flags or stuff that can be a little alarming. Quarterbacks, I've seen plenty of guys I've graded round 3 guys going round 1. Jackson Dart was one last year. Kenny Pickett was another one. If one team likes you, and those are coaches' kids, they might rise up. But I think if you want to have a trademark for Bagent, you would be like, no, those are definitely round 3 guys, round 4 guys. You really want my guy Tyson. But that's why the market's so cool in the NFL, because it's not just the draft, it's not just free agency, right. And multiple teams have now said that the trade market is going to be more active. And there's multiple reports nationally of people going like the trade market's going to be a lot more active than I think people realize. And I think that includes quarterbacks.
Yeah. And that's a great way to think about it, because if you are a quarterback needy team, you're looking at all the options, whether that's free agency, the draft, or trade. And I think that's why, because before you came on, what we were talking about is just like how we kind of thought this was more of a thing that they'd want to do a year from now.
Right.
Because it is very, very valuable to have a quarterback. And I think what really matters in this is how much Ben Johnson loves Bagent is like maybe the best like attribute he has, because if you're because all these coaches, they're so scared to coach young quarterbacks that they can't trust. And yet I think that we would vouch for this too. Like I don't know if Bagent's going to go be a great starter somewhere. What I do know is wherever he goes, he's going to know the offense.
Right.
He's going to know the system. The coaches are going to be able to trust him.
It goes a long way.
And so when you stack that up with like whatever all these other options are, whether that's like third-round flyers on a young rookie quarterback, which probably would give a head coach nightmares right now, I think Bagent's going to have value just because of that trust.
No, absolutely. And that's going to – I mean, you see time and time again, it's not even just quarterback. It's any young player. Like running backs won't play if they can't pass protect. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's countless examples of that. Guys, an edge doesn't know how to drop into coverage. Okay, well, we can't play him. So, so snaps get limited. But same with quarterback. And these coaches talk. And Ben Johnson's going to be a guy that talks too. He has friends in the league. And if they're going to ask him – and that's the thing too, is even if it's coded and he's just like – he actually doesn't like him and he's trying to pump him up a little bit, people know over time. You can kind of okay, this guy's lying full of crap. But that's the thing is no, I think this is very real how much he likes him. And for a team I'll just bring up the Cardinals again because it's just Cardinals and Jets would say, for example, for them, next year's draft class might be really loaded. So 2027, I'm Arch is the guy I think is just incredible. Lenore Sellers, Dante Moore. There's at least 5 guys that would be battling for QB2 in this class and be like first rounders if they did declare, which is so crazy.
Do you think Arch would maybe go ahead of Mendoza this year?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, just especially how he closed it, but just it's a traits league, and what's everyone keeps knocking Mendoza. They're like, oh, he doesn't have high end stuff, and I still think he's good. I really like Mendoza.
He's good. Kirk Cousins. That's what I think
Kirk Cousins, Goff, Matt Ryan. I say is the high end comparison. If you want to say like that, which I would think was ideal for a number 1 pick, that's great. But Arch has just traits. I keep saying this about Arch. He's not Peyton's nephew. I mean, he is Peyton's nephew and Eli's nephew. He's Archie's grandson. Yeah. And I mean that if anyone go look at YouTube.
Because of how he plays.
Yes, and watch Archie Manning play football, and then there's Arch, and he's kind of like a polished version of that. And his dad, Cooper, was a receiver. So why I'm saying that is he's a plus athlete. He's not just pretty fast. And I get it, Manning, not going to be a fast. He's fast as hell. And on top of it, has great mechanics, great pocket. Yeah, he would have gone 1 because especially – as this process warmed up and how it goes. And then I think a lot of other teams are probably unhappy. Like the Jets could just say, oh, we got Mendoza. We're good. We're sweet. But no, Arch would have gone 1 if he came out.
So if you're the Bears, if you're GM Ryan Poles and you're trying to maximize your leverage in this situation and project all this. So you're already saying next year's 2027, better draft class, weaker draft class this year. Not a long list of good free agent quarterbacks. So is this the year where if you're going to move Bagent, where you probably have more leverage, you could probably get more in return?
Yes.
Is that how you're approaching this?
Yes, I would. And that makes sense because when we did that quarterback landing spot show, I didn't include Bagent because of the contract. Because it's Tanner McKee's expiring, as they say in NBA terms, but it's the last year of his deal. And so that one makes sense. Okay, get it out when we're not going to get anything for him next year, maybe a comp pick or something like that if I were the Eagles. So I didn't really consider Bagent because of the contract stuff, but that's also appealing for some teams. I get 2 years. And wait
for almost nothing.
For
quarterback.
I would say that makes them more appealing than some of the other
exactly. And the fact that the Bears are going, oh no, we're actually okay with this is, I mean, and then you got to look at the 49ers with Mac Jones. That's another trade candidate, and they've already indicated, oh no, I think we're okay. But then you also see other kind of rumors or contacts or stuff reported where they're like, well, they're kind of keeping them because Purdy did get banged up, and after next year they might just do the Joker broken pool cue. So Mac Jones and Brock Purdy and whatnot. But that's actually appealing again for the Bears is that okay, there's another quarterback that's not in this market. And then Rodgers might narrow down where he goes to Pittsburgh or Minnesota. Cousins might only want to play for a former coach that he played with. So it's limited. Every spot gets more limited. And I think that makes you got to trade it when it's hot. And his film was good in the preseason. So it's you want to dangle that out for other teams. So to me, this is one time
if a team offers you a day 2 pick, I'm not saying a high second rounder, early third round, you have to entertain this conversation. Absolutely. Chicago Bears.
The backup quarterback trades have been Matt Schaub, who went for a second. Kevin Cobb went from the Eagles to the Cardinals actually for a second. And then there's one other one.
Jimmy Garoppolo for
Jimmy
a second?
G for a second.
Second
Yes.
round pick. There
That's
we go.
why I think a
That's
second is
the
actually
market.
realistic.
The last 3 backup quarterback trades have been second.
Or at
and then
least-
not including the
yeah.
Bradford injury trade to the Vikings, like after Teddy and all that. Like not that. That was a first. That was a weird circumstances, but backup quarterbacks getting traded second round has been the market since 2008.
And that's where and I don't know, I don't know that they will get a second, but what I would say if I'm the Bears, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say if you're willing to give us a second,
Then it's
okay,
done.
let's
We're
talk.
done. Yeah.
But anything, even a third, I think I'd hang on to him because I
Right.
just think the value.
And that's the battle you want to
Yeah.
have too. Especially Caleb hasn't been hurt yet. He's thick build and everything, but you just never
You never
know.
know,
And
yeah.
even if it's 2 games, and I've seen teams that have won the Super Bowl that's like just because they had a confident backup, it got them through it. I mean, the Eagles, when they've made some runs, Hurts wasn't playing, but they had Gardner Minshew or Tanner McKee, and they just got them through the games, and we're good. So yeah, I think second round, there's not a first round, because I brought up Tanner McKee now for a year, and Eagles fans just keep hating me for it. They hate me anyways, but it's whatever. But it's like I keep going, oh no, day 2 pick, and they're like, oh, how he's getting a first rounder. I'm like, all right, well, here's the history of quarterback trades.
Yeah.
It's second round for a good one, and Schaub was probably and Jimmy G a little bit, I guess, but Jimmy G had to get paid.
Mhm.
That was another thing too, and still went for a second. And he had 4 games of game tape, all that stuff coming from the Patriots. But look at the Schaub, that's the one that stands out to me. Preseason tape. Was just hung around for a little bit and could maybe enter in as a solid starter right away in the right system. That's the trade I keep comes to mind to me.
So I want to go over a couple of the offensive coordinator moves, shuffling, and what you think. So let's start with the Ravens hiring Declan Doyle from the Bears. What do you think about that hire and that fit right now with what the Ravens are trying to do with Lamar Jackson?
And in a more macro sense, it's interesting that the Ben Johnson, Sean Payton trees are the ones now getting plucked, because that's been kind of my thing. All right, the Shanahan tree is dry. All right, we got to let it replenish a little bit, and then now teams can kind of pluck that. So I was curious, where these coaches or where these owners are going to look and GMs are going to look, because I also know when all these guys were getting fired, I was kind of going all right, there's not a lot of names out there that I would be calling that I'd want calling plays. So I figured a guy like Doyle would get the shot. I really like it because this is where the football kind of meta is going right now. Is that offensive style is best to attack what defenses are doing, and that's why probably Jesse Minter went after him in Baltimore. But I really liked it. I also just think the personnel kind of actually matches decently for it. Lamar actually is a much better pocket passer than ever gets credit for. He actually has a throwing style and pocket style more like Stafford than anybody. He just also runs a 4.4. So, but he has why I'm bringing that up though. He's always been willing to throw it over the middle. Some of his best throws are digs. And I mean, look at what the Bears have been doing with Caleb and eking that out over the season. And that's become a true weapon. You look at Jared Goff in Detroit. Bo Nix is not as comfortable with it in Denver, but old Sean Payton offenses, that was Drew Brees, made a living on those. So to me, that was no, that's a throwing style. That's great. They need some personnel additions. I think they need some size at receiver and everything. But I really liked what the Ravens did this offseason. They also added a offensive line coach, Ledford from Atlanta, who's fantastic. The Ravens really nailed this offseason so far. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I like that hire a lot. And I like kind of anyone that's plucking from these trees, because I think that's where football's going.
So
right
Press Taylor's now part of that tree.
Yeah.
We weren't surprised by his promotion, but I'm curious as someone who's followed him in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Obviously know his upbringing.
Yeah.
What do you make of his promotion?
He's kind of does it's always gonna be Ben's show. So it's gonna be a situational probably guy, and that's what I think actually presses best at. And in Jacksonville, he had some, I think, third down and red zone stuff. I could be wrong, but I think in Jacksonville they got kind of everybody on that staff got Doug Peterson, in the sense that Doug seemed like he just wanted to go golfing as opposed to coaching. So it's hard those last couple
Don't
years.
we all?
I know the spur of your life. I love that. No, the last kind of couple of years there, it was kind of, I don't know how to grade it. I haven't graded fully because it's just kind of no one feels like wants to be there. It was kind of a mess. But Press's stuff is just, I think that's where it's the situational stuff is going to be good. And I think that's what kind of came along last year. I thought some third downs got better as far as designs, getting comfortable with what Caleb's comfortable with. A lot of Zacchaeus early.
Yeah.
They kind of went away from that when Burden kind of got going. So I think that, you want to kind of keep that language in the building, if that makes sense. All right. So now we're not going to have now third downs are going to be totally crazy because we got a totally new guy in there. That's what kind of Detroit went through. Yeah, this guy's from the same scheme last year. Morton.
Yeah.
Oh, he's from the same scheme. Okay, it'll be fine. The language will be fine. And then it came in. It was no, he totally rocked the boat personality wise. Press isn't going to do that. And again, it's Ben Johnson's show, so you need It's more of an auxiliary role, organizer role, and I think Press will actually be good at
So
that.
the Lions were actually the next team I was going to ask you about because it was an interesting year with the Cardinals and Drew Petzing, and our friends at PHNX were losing their minds, rightly so. For a while, it was kind of interesting that Petzing, I thought, wasn't fired, in the season, and then everybody just ended up losing their jobs.
Yeah.
What do you think about that fit in Detroit? Because I don't know why it kind of surprised me that that's where Dan Campbell went.
Yeah, better than I think. How I think described Petzing hire is like the Lions got on base. They didn't hit a home run, but they got on base. Whether you want to call it a single, or they legged it out to a double, you kind of figure that out. Petzing's offensive, dogma is very kind of traditional. And actually, I think that's what an appeal to the Lions, because there's some similarities to what Ben Johnson was doing and what Sean Payton was doing, but it's kind of its own thing. Him and Petzing and Stefanski, they're kind of like their own little thing right now. And so it's a very traditional offense, a lot of under center, a lot of throwing over the middle. Kyler was not a great fit. They got Kyler. I'll give Petzing credit. The 2024 season, that's the best Kyler ever played quarterback, from the pocket, working from that and making checks, all that stuff. But then this year, you kind of saw the warts, because that offense, and whether it's Petzing's issue, whether it was Kyler, one of those things where it's like, all right, Petzing, are you asking him to do this, or is it a can't versus won't kind of situation? So something I'm trying to figure out. I always kind of thought Petzing was solid. A lot of credit goes to Clayton Adams, who's now with the Cowboys. It was his old line coach in Arizona. He's now the OC in Dallas. He's going to be a head coach soon. He's awesome. And so it's kind of like that's the run game really fell off this year, but they're also on their fifth string running back. The offensive line fell off a little bit. They hired an offensive line coach from Ohio State. And I think they took about a teardrop there. But the counter argument to that is now Petzing's going to Detroit, where he has Hank Fraley. So it's like, okay, if that's your worry, all right, now he has somebody that shore up those edges kind of thing. But I do think that I understood why the Lions went after it, because I do think what Petzing wants to do matches Goff, matches this personnel. Trey McBride got a lot of touches in that offense, but also like Marvin Harrison Jr. were asked to run a lot of dig routes, a lot of in-breakers, and he wasn't getting the ball a lot because Kyler doesn't throw those.
Yeah.
You know who throws the crap out of dig routes? Jared Goff.
Yeah.
So it's like, I actually like that pairing a lot better than other people, because I think the Cardinals just became such a mess last year. So many injuries, so much stuff happened there. 2 years ago, they were 11th in DVOA, I think, on offense. And over the last 3 years, they've had a top 5 run game, I think, as far as success rate, top 3 in explosive play rate. The offense success or passing success rate's like 12th, 14th-ish. So it's been above average offenses. It's just that Arizona was such a mess.
What do you think the Atlanta Falcons now with Ian Cunningham do with their quarterback situation?
Oh, geez. I hope they probably think they should tank. I hope they realize that, because that one's weird to me, because Petzing isn't a great fit Penix isn't a great fit for that offense, again, because he can't really play under center. Mm-hmm. And then you're already getting to the same limitations that the last offense had with Zach Robinson. And also, I think with Penix is that he'll throw over the middle. He's not accurate whatsoever. He's late to a lot of stuff. I wasn't very high on him coming out. Another guy that I had a third round grade on. Yeah. That ended up going top 10. See, this is how the quarterback. I had a third round grade on Riley Leonard. He goes in the 6th round. Like the spray of that kind of grade. But I think their options for it is just get through this year. To me, it's like, don't overinvest for future years. It's kind of like, hey, just get through this year, see what we all got. Okay, all right, now we can actually start making the moves we want to.
So when Ryan Poles talks to you in the bar here later about like Tyson Bagent, Ian Cunningham, ignore that conversation.
Oh, that's actually a good.
No, but I
thought.
think that because I think Cunningham likes Bagent, and
that's an interesting thought though. Yeah,
but the problem is, I actually don't know all their draft capital off the top of my head, but they traded the 1st round pick.
They don't have much.
So they don't have that. And then, so if they were to give up their 2nd round, I don't know if they have more than one 2nd round pick right now.
And I think they're missing another date. I think they're missing like a 3rd round or 2. And they're in cap hell. It's pretty messy in Atlanta right now.
But it would be
so you might want a quarterback who's signed for 2 years for $5 million.
That's actually a market I didn't even think about for Bagent, because Penix, like even if Penix were healthy, now he's coming off another knee surgery. He's already older. That's the other thing about older quarterbacks. He might be older than Bagent.
Yeah. We'll look that up right now. You keep talking.
I think they're about the same age. They might, but that's another thing. I don't think there's much to improve on. And he has to be in an offense he has to be in like a Bruce Arians offense. where it's just launch stuff down the field over and over, not these types of offenses. So I think they're just going to see what they got. I've seen that, like, oh, they might bring Kirk Cousins back. I was like, no, I think that ship sailed and everything. But yeah, no, that's actually an appealing option.
They're the same age.
They're the same age. Yeah.
I think it gives you a little bit of an out too on Penix because, if he's not ready to go and
hey, we got to shore up this position somehow.
And then Bagent plays well. It's an easy excuse to keep playing him and not, because you always want to avoid those PR quarterback controversies as much as possible.
And also, that's the other thing too, is that none of this building, or at least the power brokers, they're all new. So they have no attachment to Penix. They have no attachment to Kyle Pitts, even though they tagged him. Any of that kind of old crop of guys that's like you should be building around. But like Penix to me was always like, I don't know. It was I was a little too rich, I think, in the moment, and especially their process to get there. But I do think I understand like that actually being a market there. Like they're over win totals right now is 6.5, and I'm like I hope they see that. Like that's what I keep wanting to say to like some of these teams. It's like if you're a new regime, you just have Matt Ryan. Hopefully, is chill about it.
Yeah.
Like it would just be a feisty 5-win team next year. Like maybe get a couple upsets. Like as opposed to like we're gonna push it for 7-8 wins. Oh shoot, now we're right back in the middle again. Like it's kind of one or the other. It's like either go all in or kind of crap off and like now let's go into the next year's draft.
So we're talking a ton about DJ Moore because obviously Ryan Poles opened the door for potential, a move there. Doesn't want to do it. Loves him on the roster, but knows what the contract situation is and knows what the Bears' salary cap situation is. What did you think of DJ Moore's season, and what would you do if you're the Bears?
It was telling to me about when Burden started getting more touches, and I think that's where's the football going. And I think DJ is one of these guys I understand a lot of frustrations maybe fans have with him, and there's the effort stuff last year was so disheartening. Like as far as like the Arizona game, actually that game, but just stuff. This when I say last year, I mean 2024. That stuff was just like not what you want to see from a vet that's supposed to shore everything up. So he's still explosive. He's still, I think, his play style has always been like underneath stuff, yak stuff, and then I actually think his vertical ability has always been a little bit underrated. But I think too is that they wanted Ndunze to be a thing, and then they definitely want Burden to be a thing, and then you got Loveland, who is a star in every sense of the word. So it's kind of one of these things where he's the odd man out, and if you don't absolutely fully love him, okay, well, let's get a market going for him. I mean, I think that's just football business. To me, the DJ Moore situation is a win-win. If we keep him, great. Look at our skill positions. If we don't, we can get some trade capital for him. That's how I kind of view it. And I think they maybe view it the same way. Like, don't give him up for a penny.
Right.
But like, okay, all right, hey, this is a decent offer. Okay, maybe we can part with him. Because it's very telling to me how they started using Burden. That they're like, no, we want to make this a thing. And that's what, obviously, they drafted him. This regime drafted him. As far as coaching staff and everything, I know Poles traded for more and whatnot stuff as well. But that's just something I just think just where the reps are started going, kind of how it's going.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens there because I tend to agree with you. I don't think that they necessarily know what they want to do with DJ Moore yet.
Because they even answered it. I think I saw the quote. It was like, "Oh, the door, like every path or every door is available, or something like that."
Different scenarios to explore.
And again, these guys always say word salad, but it's like there's still clues to how they say things, and that to me is more like, hey, options are open. Like, hey, we're not decided on anything right now. That's how I read that. Anyway,
well, the Bears are in such a unique spot that Caleb Williams is on his rookie contract.
Yes,
DJ Moore has the largest cap hit. You want to go win now, but that long-term sustainability, to use their own words, the sustainability. It's a thing. Ben Johnson talked about it. Ryan Poles talked about it. It's a tough predicament to be in.
Yeah. What are they going to do with Swift? He's staying.
He's
right?
staying.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. DeAndre Swift, no player. I think I said this last time I was on. No player has done more of a 180 for me than DeAndre Swift. One of my least favorite running backs, not as a guy, just as a runner. And then the second half of last year, or really since their bye week last year, it was like, what got into you? Like, just like, but I was just always curious about that because that originally to me was going to be an offseason need, and it's turned into like, oh, we can go through with
wait,
guy. We can wait a year until we have to address this with a new fresh blood or something like that. But I actually think that's appealing to me because now it's just left tackle and then defense, defensive spine, I guess.
The only thing I would say though on that is like, and I know it's not the strongest running back class, right?
Yeah.
But if we saw this last year when Burden fell to the Bears, right? And like I feel like if there is a guy in the draft that Ben Johnson really likes, it feels like has that extra juice, that extra gear that maybe DeAndre Swift doesn't have. I could still see them taking a swing on one in the draft if they really feel like it's a difference maker. And then maybe
a year later.
Well, not even a year later. I mean, sometimes you see guys cut after the draft. It does happen.
Yeah, with that kind of thing. So yeah.
I mean, I just think it is something that it could be on the table, not necessarily on purpose, but because if the cards fall a certain way.
Yeah, well, that I did a show yesterday, and we were talking about Jeremiah Love, easy running back one, Notre Dame, all that, and we were talking about how the Chiefs actually lined up to take him, but then the discussion became more about the Chiefs have a lot of needs, a lot more than you think at first realize, and then it was like, okay, well then he's going to go early. Who's the next landing spot? And then you just look, and it's like, they already have a starter. They paid a guy. They just drafted a guy. They paid a guy. They drafted a guy. That guy's a starter. He's entrenched. And you just go all the way down. And then it's not until like the Bears or like the Texans. So it's like Love's range is like 9 or like the bottom of the first. I mean, obviously trades happen right now.
Right.
But like as we sit today, and I think that's why mock drafts can actually be valuable, because then you start looking, going like, whoa, actually his range is a little different than I was expecting, because it's like not trying to plan a pipe dream here or anything, but it's like that's more of a possibility than I think people realize, because it's not about the talent, it's just about the need. There's no like, okay, we're going to draft a running back for a reason in the first round, but there's not like a lot of teams in the teens or early 20s that actually have that like desperate need for a running back, which I actually hadn't really thought about until yesterday.
Right. And Ben Johnson was part of the Lions when they took Jahmyr Gibbs. So yeah. That all would all surprise me, but I don't think it can be taken off the table.
I also think their draft is set up perfect for D tackle or left tackle for them.
Yeah.
They're in the perfect spot for the two positions I think they need the best.
What do you think of the left tackle class?
I like it because it's better than I think people were realizing a couple months ago, because some guys really rose at the end of the year. Monroe Freeling from Georgia, I'm a big fan of his. A guy that first half of the year I thought stunk, and then the second half of the year, the last month, I was like, oh wow, former basketball player. But also just like he just got stronger. I mean, that's literally what happened. His hands got stronger, his anchor got stronger, but he moves like a former basketball player with some pop. To me, I think he's going to end up going top 20. On my next big board, he'll be top 20. And I think the league likes him as well. There's some other guys. Caleb Lomu from Utah. I'm very high on him. He's been battling for OT1 for me for this whole process. People prefer his teammate, Fano, who, I don't know. I don't really see it as high as other people do. I would rather take a chance on Lomu because I just think his skill set's a true left tackle, and he's great pass protection. He just has to add strength, but it's one of these things. He's coming out as a redshirt sophomore. If he was a redshirt senior and needed strength, I'd be a little worried. But he's young, very young, especially for a guy coming out. So like Lomu's a guy that I'm higher on than I think the league is. Just, I look at Daniel Jeremiah, I look at Dane stuff just to go like, because they talk to a lot more sources than I do. I'm just kind of like, how does the league kind of think on these guys? I'm like, oh, okay, because Lomu to me is a top 15, top 16 guy. The league views him as a back half of the first round guy. That's a guy I think is ideal for the Bears, and just add the strength, can be a great blindside pass protector, kind of just what you kind of want to do with room to grow. Those are kind of the names that come out to mind to me right now as far as just the left tackle spot. There's Max Ahenisher from Arizona State, but he's a right tackle, but really, really fun tape, and a guy that really came up in the Senior Bowl. He was a JUCO guy. Didn't start playing football till I think like senior of high school kind of guy. But I think if he tests real well, I view him as a first rounder. But I think if he tests well this week, then it's just like the stock's going to keep shooting through the roof.
Adam has been waiting for you to say this guy from Northwestern.
Oh yeah,
but just say it. Just get it over. I'm about to ask you about.
I like him too. I
like him in the second round.
Yes, he's a day 2 guy. Him and Indiana. Why am I blanking on his name now? Fisher, I think.
Yeah.
From Indiana, I view them kind of very similarly. Like pretty solid. Like Fisher Indiana guy might be a guard when it's all said and done. But like I like him as just technician types, zone types, which again matches that. That's why I like Lomu too. It's like if strength's the kind of your deficiency with these guys, all right, zone running scheme actually really helps that out because you're using more movement ability than anything. No, I actually for day 2 and actually where the Bears are picking, that's exactly the range for those guys as well. I just think right now receivers are getting a lot of hype with this draft class because I think some other positions are down. But I think more tackles are going to go earlier than I think people are realizing right now.
So if you're the Bears and the top 5 or 6 pass rushers are off the board, you're looking at maybe the second or third defensive tackle, and you got these offensive tackle or like defensive tackle, some of those guys are gone and you're looking at offensive tackles. Like, do you think Ben would be comfortable with a veteran line, putting a rookie left tackle in there?
Because you got Joe Tooney next to him. That really helps.
Yeah.
It's never perfect. You never want to start.
Well, it helped this year. Like there was evidence of that. Like they survived.
They got through it.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. They got through it. It was never a thing where you watch these other teams, they put a backup left tackle and the whole plan is nuked as soon because they have no way to chip help them, no way. Like they just are like, oh my God. And they adjust as the game goes along. I never had that moment with the Bears where it's like, wow, there was never that, like when my dad was the line coach when they played the 49ers or the Giants in those night games where it's just like, oh my God, like no one can block anyone. Like the tackle's getting beat over and over.
The only moment was when we came to where you live in Vegas and the Raiders game. But everybody, when they
that game was a mess for them for some reason. Yeah.
Well, so but that's the game where they were playing Braxton Jones at left tackle and Darnell Wright was out.
Yes.
And Theo was playing right tackle, and everybody was focused on the fact that Theo was struggling with Max Crosby. But the in Ben's eyes, which I thought this was a fascinating. If you're paying attention, I thought this was like a great way to learn about Ben Johnson, because at that point it's still week 4 of the season. We're getting it, you know, we're but the adjustment wasn't, oh no, Theo can't block Max. It was take Braxton out because they couldn't run the ball. They're trying to run the ball away from Max, and they were struggling to do so. So they moved Theo to the left side. They run the ball better, and they just survived with Ozzie Trapillo at right tackle the rest of that game. And I thought that was just a fascinating in-game solution for them to survive through a game and ultimately get a crazy win.
Yeah, God, that game. For some reason, that game stands out to me a lot. I remember there was some runs early and then runs to the left because I remember even Tooney tried to recover on a couple, and it was just like because the left tackle botched. He's trying to help out, like to shore it up. So it actually stands out to me. No, and that's I think again, you're never comfortable playing a rookie, but that's the NFL. You're going to be playing rookies, so might as well get your guy. And I think what the Bears do offensively. And the situation as far as Tooney being there, other vets being even Dahlman being a vet at center, so at least point wise they're going to be okay. Is that they're going to make it as easy as possible for that. That's why to me the Bears are a great landing spot for some of these more project-y types, as opposed to other teams that's like we need like the Texans if they had to take a guy, not maybe that left tackle, but like a guard. And it's like this guy's a project. It's like, oh God, no, not you guys. You know, these teams that really need a lot of help out of the line. To me, the Bears are just a left tackle away from having one of the best, if not one of the best offensive line in the league. But it's a great situation to drop a young guy, a young talented guy. I originally still think that defensive tackle lines up well for them there. But that's kind of
25.
Yeah.
We both took the tackles in our first mock
McDonald, probably from Ohio State. Like that's the guy to beat.
I took Banks from Florida.
Florida. Yeah. Those and what Dennis Allen likes in guys, you kind of just go, all right, who has arms? Who has long arms? Okay, these are your guys you're going to go after. But it's a good defensive tackle class, but it's not like there's a bunch of top 10 guys. There's just a lot of guys that are more in that 15 to 45 range, and that's perfect. That's exactly what the Bears are selecting. Yeah, again, the Bears are lined up for the two glaring positions of need to me, which is run stopping defensive tackle and a left tackle. And it's like, I told you this though. It's like, I even addressed this on Football 31. I was wondering why so many people were asking me left tackle Bears questions because my head Trapillo didn't hurt in my head. I don't know why. I was like, oh, he has an MCL. I was like, he'll be fine by camp. We're good. And I didn't realize the extent of the injury. So I was like, oh, this is why you guys are all asking me about this.
Ryan Pohl said yesterday he basically expects him to be out the full year. Did he not say that? Or most of the year?
Most of the year. Yeah. So it's possibility he returns.
But you still don't know.
Yeah. Josh Simmons from Chiefs, he came back at like 9 months, but that was also, from what I've seen, that was a partial tear. And that changes also the prognosis of all that. It's a serious injury. Like that's one that's like, ooh. It's like that and Achilles. Like they're not as bad as ACL is not as bad as those now, and MCLs are not as bad as those. Those are two of the ones that are like, oh shoot, because it could be altering. So you're just hoping that the rehab goes well and everything. They don't rush it.
Still amazes me that he was able to run off the field when that happened. That's probably why you thought it was an MCL.
Yeah, I did because I don't know why. It was like in my head, that's what it was. I was like, he got hurt. I remember he got hurt because Tooney had to play left. I remember all that, and then I was like, but it wasn't bad. In my head, it was just like it wasn't bad.
Because he hopped off the field.
Yeah,
so
and it was late in the game, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, they would have had to burn a timeout. It was insane that he got off the field.
I know, and he got so much better this year too. It was like I love that pick for them because it was like, oh, that's a fun kind of a like He can play both sides, got good size. Like, is he ideal? No, but like, okay, you can really work with him. And I thought that he was coming along too, which is kind of more disappointing.
You have any more draft questions before I shift gears for a second?
No, I was going to spring them because I've.
All right, the last question then. As someone who lives in Vegas, works in Vegas, what's your read on this Max Crosby situation, future? Did Caleb Williams go on a show? Does that change any interest conversation?
I think he is, like, if I were a betting man, which I am, I think he's gone because, all right, so we had Jay Glazer on a Yahoo show, Yahoo Sports Daily, and it was at the Super Bowl, and we're doing from the Yahoo offices. Jay Glazer comes on the show, and I think he was just got off the plane, and so he was just kind of like a loopy mood or whatever. He just starts talking. He's like, "Oh yeah, Max is gone. Max is gone," and ever since then he's been kind of like rescinding it. But what are your like? First words out, gut instinct kind of thing. It's like, oh, that's interesting to me. Like I was like, oh, I'm like sitting there waiting for my show, and I'm like texting and just like,
what'd you say?
This is on air, right? And I was like, this is in between, right? And I was like, and then he just kept going and kept going. And I talked to Spy Tech, like look it up, like it's on YouTube somewhere, on the Yahoo channel. But no, like he's like, oh, I talked to Spy Tech, and we're trying to reconnect. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to be saying this, Jay, but all right, keep going, keep going, keep going. So to me, though, it's like, I mean, just watching every step of this, it seems like he's trying to get out.
Right.
Maybe they rekindle it and just go like, oh, Mendoza's coming, everything's great, Kubiak, this is gonna be great, all that. But I really it seems like he's headstrong and getting out of there, posting the videos on Instagram and everything. And to me, like, yeah, it seemed like the Bears or something that wants to go after him. Like, yeah, totally get it because he plays freaking hard. He's great against the run. He's great against the pass. And you got right now he's got a decent contract too. So it's like I totally get the interest in him. But if I had to bet, I would say he's gone. I don't know where, but I do think he is.
Yeah, that was my big takeaway of the podcast he did with Caleb. Was like, I have no idea if the Bears will trade for him, but I think he wants to play for the Bears. I thought he made it very clear that he would love to play football on the same team as Caleb Williams.
That's and teammates love him. I mean, he's like everything you think about his personas is like it's very real. Like he's very himself. It's like kind of a very refreshing story in some ways too. Like you talk about his drug issues and everything like that, and overcoming alcohol issues, and overcoming that, and like it's been kind of cool. And he's like Matt Harmon, who I do Football 301 with, he talked about at the Pro Bowl. No, I'm sorry, Charles McDonald talked about this at the Pro Bowl. There's talking to all the players. Are you disappointed not playing? No, this is great. I love playing dodgeball. And Max Crosby was pissed that he didn't actually get to play real football. He was like, no, this is why we're here. Like, get the pads on, let's go. And he was actually mad. He was like, talk to people. It's like, we got to talk to the league and talk to him about this. We got to get the game back. And all the players are like, no, we don't. This is great. I'm loving it. Yeah, he just wants to play ball again. But again, that's kind of his persona, I guess. And I think it's very real.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for giving us so much of your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
always
guys.
love talking football with you.
I know this was the best. I know. I mean, I'm glad you guys come to these because then we can talk. It's awesome. So I'll see you probably right after the draft or something of that sort. Maybe
we'll see you tonight at the JW.
Yeah.
High velocity. I couldn't do it last night. Like because I'm staying at the Hampton Inn, which is across town, and like a couple people were walking that way, and I was just like, I'm going to bed. But thanks for having me on, guys. It's great.
All right, Nate Tice, always appreciate having him here. We got a couple more things we got to do before we close out the show. We did have Ryan Poles' what he actually said about the left tackle. Let's run that as Nate gets up. What Ryan Poles had to say about the left tackle position yesterday. Here was the Bears general manager.
Yeah, I think the tackle position is pretty healthy this year. Not sure. Sometimes, there's years where there's a run where they're all gone. There's a lot of them. Sometimes there's a couple guys that are sitting there waiting for you. So we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, that's a unique situation for us. Trying to determine how to fill that space with what we have. I know, we want to keep Darnell and Jonah together. We got a really cool right side. So then there's draft. There's free agency. What's the cost of free agency? There's re-signing your own with Braxton, and then you have Theo's development. We've yet to put a whole offseason together with Karan, but he showed promise at times. So a lot of different factors there that are a little bit difficult to figure out.
Well, this is our big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. And as much as that was about the left tackle, my big takeaway from what Ryan Poles had to say there was he actually answered some big questions that could have been on the table for discussion more this offseason, that I think he pretty much put to bed. Very clearly said they want to keep Darnell Wright with Jonah Jackson on the right side. Like, that's a big offseason question that just sort of got answered there, because it's always sort of been lingering that they could move Darnell Wright to left tackle. So it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. And then the same thing with Tooney, and this one I expected to be the case, but, you know, Joe Tooney playing left tackle is not the long-term solution for next season.
Emergency button. That's what it is.
Yeah, as he said, in a pinch, that's how the question was phrased. That's how he put it. So it does sound like my big takeaway there is that from left guard to right tackle, they want to keep that continuity. They had those guys all season except for the one game that Darnell Wright missed. And so it just becomes finding who that left tackle will be, whether that's through the draft or, a 1-year veteran option. I don't. It sounds like the 49ers are going to try to keep Trey Williams. That would be probably a more pricier option, but that suddenly came up yesterday. Like, he could be somebody who's released if they can't figure out his contract. So you just never really know what's going to happen. But at some point, they're going to have to just bring in a left tackle for at least this season to plug in with those other 4 guys they know they have.
My big takeaway is that this is a priority for the Bears. For as much as we talk about adding to the defensive line, finding a defensive tackle, improving that pass rush, signing a safety because there's not one under contract, left tackle might be above them all.
Yeah.
Because of Caleb Williams, because of Ben Johnson, because of how important that function is, that position is to everything the Bears want to do. As Nate said, could they survive with a rookie in there? Absolutely. Could they survive with a free agent in there for 1 year? I'm sure. But at the same time, balancing short-term, long-term, if you could find someone could lock that position down for 4 or 5 years, even longer, I mean, you're going to have the best offensive line in football. Like, that's my big takeaway.
It's already one of the best lines.
You fix that spot this year, you're talking about the Chicago Bears having the best offensive line in football. Not one of the best offensive line in football.
Yeah. I see somebody in the comments saying, I'm not worried about left tackle. I'm not really worried about it either. I just feels like with those other 4 guys, and as we were just talking to Nate, you can survive, especially when you got a guy like Joe Tooney next to whoever.
That's kind of crazy to say. Like, how? Like,
I know.
Like, Ryan Poles was worried about it.
I don't think worried's the right word. I
overly
think
concerned.
I think they're confident they will have a solution. For this season, and I think you can feel that way when you have those other 4 guys that played so well this past season. So that was the big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. It's time for us to wrap up. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? We will have another show from Indy later on in the week, and of course we have you covered daily on CHGO Bears.
Yeah, I know there's a lot going on here. The comp pick thing has come up. I would think the league would do the right thing and reward those picks to the Bears. Hopefully we hear about that. I don't know here, but before the NFL annual meeting in Arizona, I'm sure it'll come up. The stadium stuff, I know you're working on it.
Yeah.
That's still left to be discussed. Maybe we'll have more clarity or more to talk about on our later podcast.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing I said last Wednesday, because it's kind of the easiest way to put it is the Bears and the state of Illinois get a redo on what happened last week. The same thing. It's Wednesday. They're talking. Tomorrow morning is that committee hearing. Whether or not they get to the point that they feel like a bill can be brought to that committee and actually called on and discussed, that's the big question between now and I think 8 a.m. tomorrow morning Central Time. So 9 a.m. here in Indianapolis. And then meanwhile, across the street at the state capitol here in Indy, the House did pass Senate Bill 47.
There's a signature just waiting.
And then, so that's got to go to the Senate. The last I checked this morning before I walked over here to the convention center, that was not on the schedule today for the Senate side. So maybe that's tomorrow, but that's all got to get figured out by the end of the week too. So there will definitely be, just like last week, and hopefully it goes a little bit smoother. And I do think there has been progress made in Illinois this week. I think last week ended up being a huge wake-up call. And we'll see between now and probably by the time we do another show on Friday is what it sounds like we're gonna do our next show Friday, I think, before we get out of here, Friday morning probably. We'll have a little bit more to talk about on that side of things.
My Xfinity big takeaway on that in Illinois, can just cooler heads just prevail here and just come together and get some productive conversations and deal making done.
Yes, I think the heads are getting a little cooler, but there's still some semantics and posturing and certainly politics, because it is politics involved. Again, more on that a little bit later on in the week. We will have a live CHGO Bears show for you again, as always, at 1 o'clock today, 1 p.m. Central Time. And I'll be at this point even surprised. I don't know what we're doing, but I'm sure Braggs and Carmen are running around for hours. So I'm sure
They were just here. Braggs is in a suit.
Yeah. Well, see, he did go suit. It's like a blazer.
No, the pants, the suit pants are on. That's the giveaway, Steven. He's got a CHGO shirt. Pat Norton's wearing a turtleneck again.
He said he packed 3 of them,
One
right?
of four.
Four
Waiting,
turtlenecks.
waiting for the orange one.
4 turtlenecks.
If he wears an orange one, he's definitely coming on the show on Friday.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
Sponsored by Roback.
You know, when I put this on this morning, I was worried that he was going to be wearing the same thing. At least it's a different color. Yeah. All right. Well, shout out to Roback. All right. We are out of here. Appreciate Nate Tice joining. Thank you for everybody watching, listening, everybody watching live on YouTube. Please rate and review the pod as well, wherever you listen to it. Thanks to our producer, Katie Langen, for producing as always, and Stephen Nicholas for helping out today, as well as we are on site at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Talk to you in a couple days. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.